I've seen a lot over the course of my lifetime, a result of my age and of my chosen career as a journalist. I've covered maybe too many individual stories to count. Some, like the assassination of President John F. Kennedy and the terror attacks of 9/11, are seared in my memory. But increasingly, I'm struck by the broader themes that I have witnessed, the lines and curves that emerge when you plot individual story points along the axis of history. The struggle for civil rights, the digital revolution, a burgeoning environmental movement, and so many more. As these waves of change lap upon us, it's not always clear where we are heading or what will the next tide bring. We need to prepare ourselves for an unpredictable future by sorting out facts from the noise, by challenging our own biases and preconceptions, by celebrating the most best and creative instincts of the human mind, and by expanding the knowledge upon which we make decisions. It is because of people like you who marry the instinct to dream big with the skill to turn notions into data and data into an expansion of what we know to be true. But now we find ourselves in a moment of reckoning, especially here in the United States, yet there are echoes of it around the globe. Are we going to guide our future by science, reason, and knowledge, or are we going to succumb to superstition, ignorance, and propaganda? The fate of our very planet is at stake, something on which so many of you in this room have been sounding an urgent alarm. Earth is warming. Human activity plays a major role. We can, if we act with speed and purpose, likely mitigate some of the harm, but will we? Can we? And what does our failure to confront climate change say about our ability to handle other crises of the present and the future? I believe we journalists and scientists are in many ways kindred spirits. We both try to get as close to the truth as is humanly possible. We both work with imperfect tools and high levels of uncertainty. We both must constantly challenge our own assumptions. And we both must have a rigorous acknowledgement of our errors. Yet, we journalists and scientists are both under siege, beset by accusations of fake news, self-interest, and bias. Much of this comes, and let us mark well, through coordinated attacks from powerful actors who have a vested interest in the truth remaining hidden. Confusion and false equivalence are their weapons. Journalism and science, when practiced to the highest standards, are rooted in nuance and fairness. Those who seek to undermine our purpose play by no such rules. Sadly, the forces arrayed against us are not you. I came of age as a reporter in the 1950s, during the height of McCarthyism and the Red Scare. Journalists were under attack, as were many scientists and others in lines of work that championed reason. We learned that America, like other nations, can be swept by a wave of irrationality, and the dangers of this undertow lurk ever underfoot. With that in mind, the question comes, of course, are we doomed to despair? Thankfully, I'm convinced the answer is an emphatic no. Let us fight the dark pull of cynicism. Skeptics make good scientists and good journalists. Cynics do not. The human mind is wired to be interested in science. But somehow, much of the story of science is being lost in popular culture. And I believe this breeds much of the dangerous distrust that we're witnessing and experiencing today. Sadly, I believe a dogmatic approach to teaching science is depriving students and the general public from enjoying the most marvelous quality, that is, the joy and awe of discovery. The way too many of us talk about science turns scientific knowledge into some kind of distant gospel accessible only to the high priests of the academy. This is the antithesis of the way science really works, as anyone who ever walked through a poster session at a conference will tell you. That science is about debate and rethinking. Even the most cherished of theories by the most revered of scientists can fall victim to the data of a graduate student. And that's a good thing. Here's one reason for bringing it up, maybe the main reason. I know too few of us in the press and media have experienced the long, hard process of research, which is the hallmark of science. Those of us in the press and the media, and I do not accept myself in this criticism, we're always looking for easy answers and simple narratives. We're constantly worrying about what makes science relatable instead of what makes it truly compelling. Like any scientific hypothesis, our governing philosophy has been challenged, but we have kept the experiment viable by altering it through new laws and amendments to our Constitution, just as scientific theories change to reflect new knowledge. When the great histories of this nation are written centuries, perhaps millennia from now, I'm confident that the role of science will occupy many chapters. But of course, this effort is much bigger than the United States. Today, as I tried to make clear from the beginning, I'm honored to speak before a diverse international audience. This is a big part of what makes science so special. The collaborations, the mutual respect, and the common language among peoples. Science builds bridges. It deepens understanding. It points us to a more optimal path ahead. What should we do to make sure this world is a world of science? I think much of it has to start at an individual level and bubble upwards. But I've covered enough social movements to know that big change begins with small commitments and engagement. I saw it covering the civil rights movement. Yes, there were leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., but there was the mass of people who made the movement possible. We'll need leaders to rise up to promote science, and we already have many. But leaders can't lead if they don't have those who will amplify their cause. What will make this movement thrive is tens of thousands of individual actions, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem at the time. And it will require that these stories are then told.